Good afternoon, everyone. We are 5 days out from the election. Today is October 16th, and Election Day is October 21st. It is incredible how quickly this election has gone by. It seems like the writ was just dropped. Really, it's wild. So it's incredible to me how often people come up to me after debates and say, thank you for talking about the issues and answering the questions. And I find that interesting. And so last night I was at a debate and the same thing happened. People came up and said, thank you for answering the questions directly and having some good answers. And that was good to hear. And I'm appreciative of when people come up and talk to me afterwards. So it's wonderful to chat with people, particularly after a debate. And I thought that it went well. So if you want to watch that debate, it's up on my local channel. Here's Maxime Bernier, and he says, quote, "For the first time in years, thanks to the PPC, issues that matter to Canadians are finally being addressed. Immigration, climate alarmism, political correctness, equalization, corporate welfare, globalism, foreign aid, respecting our Constitution, etc. You have a choice." And man, I have to say, I talked a lot about respecting our Constitution with the respect of respecting the province's autonomy and respecting their right to oversee services and respecting the taxpayer's right to hold them to account. It's important, right? And it doesn't get talked about a lot. It seems like everybody else wanted to jump in enthusiastically into the healthcare conversation and into housing conversation without actually addressing the problem. They want to throw money into a market that's been tainted with billions of dollars of money laundering money, with ill-gotten cash, with drug money. It's wild. It doesn't make any kind of sense. And so it's nice when people come up and say, thank you for answering questions. It's nice when people come up and say, thank you for talking about the things that we're talking about, because these are the things that need to be discussed. So Maxime Bernier continues. October 15th, he says, all other parties propose more federal meddling in healthcare, education, daycare, housing, local infrastructure, which are all provincial responsibilities. The People's Party is the only party that will respect the Constitution and provincial autonomy. And I just diatribed about that, so we agree, Mr. Bernier and I. Shocking, right? And here he is continuing October 15th. That's yesterday. And he says, the left is becoming more and more hysterical and authoritarian. Everyone is a racist. Censor speech. End of the world soon. Kill pipelines and the economy. Massive new taxes and spending. Who do you trust to fight back and argue for common sense? Centrist Scheer or Maxime Bernier? Me. And again, I think that it's interesting to watch Justin Trudeau say similar things and move to expel or remove news like True North Center or like Rebel Media or like Andrew Lawton from covering a debate. And also you see Jagmeet Singh attack Maxime Bernier for his hateful comments, but ignoring Justin Trudeau's blackface, right? Despite the apology. I mean, it's a debate after all. You mentioned that. So it's interesting when you can't have a conversation for fear of being labeled by a segment, this all-encompassing insult, you racist, right? But the reality is, like, a lot of people have the same thoughts. A lot of people are saying there's got to be some balance that isn't, we're being bankrupt by this system, for one. Or why are we spending $300 million a month on Saudi oil, for another? It doesn't make any sense, right? We're an oil-rich nation that should be consuming our own oil, not having oil shipped to us across an ocean in a tanker that then unloads and fills our eastern provinces with oil. The oil is getting used. Why aren't we enriching Canada by building pipelines, keeping those skilled jobs within Canada, making sure that Canadians are benefiting from the $300 million that currently is leaving our economy and going to Saudi Arabia's for the oil that we use? It doesn't seem to make sense to me. Anybody who's got Canada's best interests at heart would see that that's low-hanging fruit. The oil's getting used one way or the other. One way we have controls on environmental standards, et cetera, and the other way we're buying Saudi oil, so no controls on environmental standards. No way to say we should do that better. No way to even gauge it. In fact, what we're doing is transporting oil in the most irresponsible way, period, and ignoring all evidence to the contrary, while having fights over pipelines. Bill C-69. Having fights over tankers coming into ports, but not Saudi oil, not in Quebec. just tankers in BC. Weird, right? Scheer or Bernier? I'm on Team Bernier. As Mr. Bernier continues, Scheer promises this morning that he will continue to invest in CBC Radio Canada. Remember, he also said he wouldn't commit to ending the $585 million media bailout. Scheer is afraid of the left-wing media. You have a choice. I'm sick of the media being bailed out. I do this as a hobby. This is fun for me. So I'm glad that you like to watch, but I want a media that's going to report reality, not guard their jobs with their reports, right? And the CBC has with their filing of the lawsuit, while also presuming to be an independent, nonpartisan, centrist? That's not the right word. Hold on. Impartial debate moderator. It doesn't make sense when you're simultaneously suing one of the parties, right? And that's not appropriate. It seems crazy. So we'll continue. Mr. Bernier says, quote, "There's no place for radical Islam in Canada. We need a values test to screen out potential immigrants who share this barbarian ideology. The multiculturalist left refuses to recognize it, but all cultures and values are not equal." And Mr. Bernier has talked about this before, and he's discussed it as Western values, but that's rule of law and the equality between a man and a woman and the rights of LGBTQ people to exist and to have the same rights as everyone else. Right? And I think those are things that most people would agree with. The separation of church and state. These are Western values that the foundation of Canada is built on. And when the stuff like this is ignored, and it's 1:38, you should watch it. I'm not sure if it's worth me spending the time to watch it, but there are plenty of videos like this with people spouting an ideology that is trying to usurp Canada in a way that is tearing the country apart. And that's radical Islam. And that is terrorism. And that is not okay. That is not acceptable. And, only one leader is talking about this. The other leaders are meeting with imams. That's notable to me. Mr. Bernier continues, 8:44 a.m., October 16th, that's today. Crocodile Tears. The Liberals' main strategy for 4 years has been to foster division, calling all who disagree racist and supremacists, playing identity politics and dividing us into tribes. The People's Party of Canada will focus on what unites us as Canadians, not what divides us. And this is in response to National Post reporting, federal election 2019, Trudeau says divisive political climate is his main regret. Well, he's the one who calls people racist. He's the one who responds in that manner. It's very interesting. If you're wearing a yellow vest, you're racist. If you're a grandma asking about a fiscal policy and when $200 million or $173 million will be paid back to the province, that's racist. Can't do that. So strange, right? And that's his biggest regret? Weird. Mr. Bernier continues. Oh, this is back to October 15th. He says, quote, "I've written about how the central bank keeps debasing our currency. Now it's exploring a digital currency to replace cash and allow the government to spy on us. No need for conspiracy theories anymore. It's being planned openly." And there was a big backlash recently at the beginning of 2019 when the StatsCan was going to be sharing spending data with a whole bunch of people, and everybody got really upset. This is really being considered, and this is way, way worse. So this is the Financial Post, and they report, quote, "Bank of Canada exploring digital currency that would replace cash, track how people spend money. An internal Bank of Canada presentation says benefits of a digital currency include the sharing of personal information with police or tax authorities. The Bank of Canada is considering launching a digital currency that would help it combat the direct threat of cryptocurrencies and collect more information on how people spend their money. The logic has learned. An internal Bank of Canada presentation prepared for Governor Stephen Poloz and the bank's board of directors offers the most detailed public insight yet into the bank's thinking on a proprietary digital coin. According to the presentation, the currency would be widely available. It would initially coexist with coins and paper money, and eventually it would replace them completely. So what happens if you get into an extended power outage and your phone is out and you have no access to your pretend money. And yeah, this is possible with ATMs in the current system as well. But if you have paper cash at your house or in a safety deposit box, it's valuable. There's worth there. If paper money is completely phased out, let's say in 100 years, how would you fall back? And what benefits does it have over cash for you and I? Currently, I can use PayPal and I can use it on the internet and I can use it if I want to through a debit card. And in a store, generally I can use my debit card without worry, and that's attached to a bank account which I can withdraw cash from, no problem, right? It seems like a pretty easy system where there's a standard and a pretty easy way to transfer money in between cash and bank, and there's no difference, there's no distinction. But this takes a lot of control away from you or I to take preparations or handle our money in a way privately. If you want to have a cash transaction for Kijiji or something to that effect, there's a lot of complications here. Back to the article. This is talking about the presentation, but it's not really worthwhile. So here it is. It emerged at a moment of heightened concern over the implications of digital money. Global regulators and central bankers, including representatives from Canada, are gathering this week in Washington, D.C. at the annual Joint World Bank International Monetary Fund meetings, which include a session on big tech and the future of finance. China is in the final steps of launching its own digital coin, and Libra. Facebook's digital offering is losing key backers, facing scrutiny from regulators worldwide, including the Bank of Canada. Yeah, having Facebook get into the digital currency game, that's just inappropriate as well. And just because they have such a captive audience, well, I mean, it's a massive... It would be like Walmart paying in Walmart dollars, right? If you go work at Walmart and then you get like a gift card with Walmart dollars, and you can spend it at the Walmart and you can spend it at the McDonald's. This is what happens in Mexico, by the way. And that's why I think this is a bad idea. So just to illustrate that, because what happens is it becomes a walled garden, and you can buy things that are connected with Facebook. And then anybody who doesn't get paid that way, all of the other stores are out of reach, right? Or the other stores have to come on to Libra coin or Libra whatever money, and then that increases its value. So that's the idea, but it's a nightmare. It's just an absolute nightmare. So, okay, back to this. And Trump came out against Libra coin as well, but I can't exactly remember what he said about it, but he said it was a bad idea for some reason. I can't remember why. Back to the article. We need to innovate to stay in the game, the presentation reads. A digital currency would provide, quote, all the benefits of a central bank-backed asset, it says, as well as, quote, all the convenience and security of wireless electronic payments. It lists over a dozen benefits to the bank launching its own digital currency, and only one downside. Quote, an additional payment method could make the payment system more robust, but the presentation notes digital currency also presents a risk to stable, low-cost funding for banks' deposits. It suggests this digital currency could come with the option to pay interest on balances and the ability to collect more information on Canadians than is possible when people use cash. Quote, personal details not shared with the payee, but could be shared with police or tax authorities, reads the presentation. I'm going to scroll down. There's more meat in this, but I just wanted to keep it kind of on topic. Canada is far from the only country exploring a digital currency. Last week, Switzerland's central bank started exploring the use of digital currencies for trading. Sweden and Singapore both have research efforts underway. China appears to be ready to be the first to launch, with plans to have its own currency up and running either late this year or early next year. It's not just countries getting into the digital currency game. In addition to Facebook's Libra, JP Morgan is already using a digital coin, and Vanguard is testing a blockchain-based currency trading system. So, I mean, these things are coming, but at what cost? And at what benefit to the consumer? And do you really want that much information tied to all of your transactions? And, you know, they can't send it to the payee, but police and tax authorities. Weird. Here's Mr. Bernier again, October 15th, last night. Climate change extremists will talk about the need to impose an environmental dictatorship at a conference next week in Montreal, sponsored by major institutions. Why is there no outcry when the crazy leftists discuss subverting freedom and democracy? Right. Why can they discuss changing the whole system? The system is built on democracy, and you do that through votes. If you want to change the system, you do it through the system, not through direct action, right? Although there are examples all throughout history of direct action doing exactly that. So maybe that's what they're going for, but it's not usually peaceful. So that's not a great plan for a G7 nation, right? Back to Mr. Bernier. 9:41 a.m. on October 16th, he says the other parties have been making costly promises every day to buy your vote with your own money. New program, new subsidy, new tax credit, etc. The PPC only offers the same sound policies that will benefit all Canadians. Yeah. It's not about boutique tax credits. It's about making it a fair and robust environment to build your business, to build your family, to invest your money, to invest in businesses, in Canadian businesses. That's the idea. It seems straightforward to me. Low-hanging fruit. Anybody with Canada's best interests at heart would be doing this already. Why aren't they? Here's the last tweet for this morning. Mr. Bernier says, politics has become a giant game of pandering. It's all about who makes the most irresponsible promises to the most political clienteles. That's why our government and our debt keep growing. You can break the cycle. You can break the cycle. You have a choice. And you do. And the choice is to be made 5 days from now, on October 21st. So, thank you for watching. Don't forget to go and vote. Have your say. If you agree with Mr. Bernier, then vote for him through the candidate in your riding. And if you don't agree with Mr. Bernier, then don't. But be aware. Read through the policies of the major parties that you're considering and make an informed choice. It's not up to me who you vote for. It's up to you. Make sure it counts. Have a wonderful, wonderful